Hi, my name's Kyle Gilbo. You can check out more of my work at kylegilbo.com or on my social media at kjgilbo. Today I'm drawing Magik from X-Men The New Mutants in honor of all the hype the new movie's getting after they announced that the New Mutants are getting their own movie series. I think it's a trilogy they announced. But I'm drawing Magik in honor of my favorite mutant finally hitting the big screen, and I couldn't be more excited. I think she's a great character, and even in the comics she hasn't been getting a lot of attention because she's mostly just been jumping around from book to book. So I wanted to do my own take on the character, so you'll see I did a little bit of a redesign on her costume, and I thought the elements would suit her a bit more. So I'm going to go through my process of making the art and my process of going in the concept designing her new costume. So going to my process a little bit, the first stage I'm doing all in red, and this is the base pencils. I have some thumbnails I'll put up on the screen right now that were kind of the planning process, and here I'm going over them with more refined pencil work. In any of my comic work, like Spider-Man Sick Day, my fan comic you can find on my website or on my social medias, that I all penciled in the original red, and then I went over it inking immediately. But right now I'm getting to the second penciling process that I do for a lot of my illustrations, just to tighten everything up and make sure nothing is really left to guesswork when I'm in my inks. Because it's a lot easier to do that on a comic page where there's a lot of elements you can keep track of, and then kind of build a whole picture. But here, where it's a focus of one character, I want to make sure all the anatomy, all the expressions, everything down to the costume is all accurate and what I want in the picture. So here I'm going over a second penciling, and a lot of it's the same lines over, just making sure I'm nailing the expression that I want. Most of the work is done in the face, but I do form up the hair a little bit and then do some more work on her costume later on. So I'm getting to all the design work on creating the costume right now. And I'll put up some pictures of some of my favorite artists and their takes on Magik, because it's not generally a cohesive look across the line of what Magik's costume is, especially in the newer comics. They're adding different padding and they're changing things. Sometimes she wears pants, sometimes she wears like leggings, sometimes they're just boots. So I wanted to just kind of have my own take on it and something that I thought fit the character a bit more, and go for something that's a bit sharper and a bit not more conservative, but just generally that it's more metal and badass than something that's just kind of like flimsy, just latex over her. And I thought that would fit the personality of the character, this kind of like badass rogue, like mutant time traveler, space traveler that just, it doesn't need to be reduced to something like Emma Frost, where sexuality is a big part of her character. I think you can convey the confidence that Magik has in magic and combat, but it doesn't need to be overtly sexual. So what I added in was in the usual slits in her costume, at her bust and at her pants, where there'd usually just be cutouts. I changed that to the athletic wear that's like those cutaway leggings that have like the different material, so you can still see through, but it's a different kind of mesh that's a bit darker. And I thought, like, I really liked the look of it. I thought, like, it'd be something prepared for. Like, in Bendis's run on X-Men, they were in, like, the middle of winter in a field, and she was wearing, like, a tank top. I was like, this doesn't make sense. And I'm not the biggest stickler for those types of things. But I just thought maybe it'd be a more appropriate costume that would look cool, fit her character, but also be an all-terrain, because she can teleport across, like, the world. I think she'd want to be more prepared for any situation. So when I was doing the design work for this costume, it was all on the fly, and I was, like, looking up reference on my other monitor and kind of doing as I went. But what I really want to do is do a video one of these weeks where it's an entire redesign. I went through a concept art program at college. I was a 1 year, so I wanted to show, like, the process of what I learned and how you can apply that to designing a costume, and mostly just where I was thinking with this, but also get a cohesive look that a look at where my like process is in my head that I was all going through behind the scenes as I was drawing it. So I think that would be cool, and every week I want to try to put out one video of either an illustration like this one, or a tutorial, or a talk, or some concept I want to tackle in the art community. Just generally something that you can like tune in every week and just see and kind of get an opinion on, or you can see where I'm working. I'll probably get around to doing, when I'm getting comic work doing, I'll do like a panel process and all my thumbnails and my entire process I go through. I might one week go through Spider-Man Sick Day and show some of the pencil work and the thumbnail work and show where it ended up. and my whole process taking one page from thumbnails to finished page. And I think that'd be really helpful for me and a lot of people who want to make comics out there, and you can see other processes, because while you don't want to copy someone's process, you want to be able to take bits and pieces of how they work and see if those apply to you, and these shortcuts and different methods they have that can ultimately just help products get it put out faster and also better. And to touch more on that, I think there's a big type of mentality in the art community of it doesn't matter what tools you use or materials you use and how, like, what's your brushes. It's like, well, it doesn't matter. I think as someone who went through learning how to paint, that was not toxic, but it was just generally unhelpful. That I think people keeping their processes hidden or keeping their what brushes they use or what techniques they use just kind of to themselves kind of slows the general like progress that the art community makes, because people are just trying to figure out what everyone else does and how they can apply that to their own work. But it's generally seen as copying or some sort of like shortcut that I don't believe in. Like, for the most part, a lot of people use default brushes. Like in Photoshop, when I start coloring, you'll see I just use a chalk brush and a modified hard round brush with transfer on it. And even in Clip Studio here, I'm just using a G pen and the darker pencil with no alteration made to it. But seeing how those are used and seeing what choices are made in that process really is where it comes into play. So I don't think knowing brushes is as important as knowing how they use them. And I didn't know how to blend colors for like 2 months into my my program while I was learning how to do concept art. So like I had to look up tutorial after tutorial trying to find out like, well, how do you blend paint? Like I've painted on canvas before, but digitally I didn't even know transfer was a setting. So that's the one thing I might look into one week, just how I learned how to paint or how I learned new techniques, and like just trying to shortcut some of those stops that people are having trying to learn digital. And I will admit I'm on the fence now that, or on the side of the fence that brushes don't matter. I'll concede that. So if you want my brushes, you can have them. Like they don't do anything. But I will teach you how to use those brushes, and I'll show you my processes. That's why I think doing the tutorial thumbnail to finished comic page would help, because it just shows how loose I work or how tight I work, and you can see what generally how I get from point A to point B, and then not exactly compare it to your process, but see, hey, do I need to do a second pencil pass when I can just use this inking brush that's a bit looser, like the texture brush in Clip Studio, and that'll take me to a finished product. So I think those things will generally help people, and I kind of want to share information that I've learned, because I've had a lot of problems learning things, and that will kind of help push everyone forward. And I kind of want to make a big community here that just kind of is all focused on improving each other, as something that I had when I was in school. It was a nice tight-knit group of people just trying to improve, and that's one thing I think I can provide to a community that not that I know a lot, but that I know how to learn, and I can help share information and take information and just be a vessel to share how people work. And like this is basic, just cell shading, coloring, and a little bit of blending. So I'm going to be trying to improve a lot at coloring, because Sick Day was done in just 2 tones. I did a base tone and then a shadow tone. And here I went for a bit more paint, but I can show my old concept artwork and just like what I think was wrong with it, or like what I learned from each thing I worked on, and that could help grow the community and learn how to paint, and kind of skip over those 3 projects I did that were just complete trash that I didn't like, but I learned a lot from, and I can kind of just point you in the right direction of where to learn that stuff. So I hope you'll stick around and subscribe, because we're coming to the end of the video, but I hope you tune in every week and try to help me teach you and you teach me. So subscribe and follow my social medias, and I'll see you guys next week.